John Herbert Dillinger was the most notorious Depression-era bank robber. Dillinger went on an 18-month reign of terror from 1933 to 1934, stealing over $300,000, a huge arsenal of weapons, and was also involved in the killing of 7 FBI agents and police officers. He escaped from prison 2 times during this time period and was looked upon by the American public as a modern-day Robin Hood, an American public enemy number 1.
I'm awful sorry that John got into this trouble. Sorry that it ended up the way it has. I want the people to know that I tried to raise him right, and that he's all a bit good-hearted boy.
John Dillinger was born on June 22, 1931 in Oak Hill, Indianapolis, along with Audrey, his only sister. Dillinger's mother died just before his 4th birthday. Growing up, Dillinger was frequently getting in trouble with the law, so the family decided to move to Mooresville, Indiana in 1920. He enlisted in the U.S. Navy, but deserted when his ship was in Boston. He was now looking for a job and planned a robbery with his friend Ed Singleton. They robbed a local grocery store, stealing $50. A few days later, he was arrested. He confessed and received 10 to 15 years behind bars at the Indiana State Prison. While in prison, he quickly became friends with fellow cons Harry Pierpont and Homer Van Meter. Another fellow con, Walter Dietrich, taught him the basics for successful bank robbing. Also while in prison, he met Charles Makeley, John Hamilton, and Russell Clark, all who eventually became members of the Dillinger Gang. On May 22, 1933, Dillinger was put on parole. After the rough life in prison, Dillinger came to the conclusion to avenge the bank and law system. Now out of prison, he was in a position to help smuggle in guns and weapons to his fellow prison mates. And on September 22nd, 10 prisoners, Dillinger's future gang members, escaped from the Indiana State Prison. Just before the Indiana prison break, Dillinger had been arrested and imprisoned at the Allen County Jail in Lima. Dillinger's faithful friend, Harry Pierpont, as well as some other ex-convicts, sprang Dillinger from jail. Dillinger was furious with his friends for killing the sheriff because he felt that it was completely unnecessary. The regret of the sheriff's death did not prevent Dillinger from planning attacks on multiple banks using unethical methods that involved several trial runs before actually performing the raid. As the Dillinger gang started moving from state to state, robbing bank after bank, Dillinger became more of a hero to the American public than a villain. The American people were not in good terms with the banks, and most were glad to see what Dillinger was doing to them. Few innocent citizens were ever killed during Dillinger's reign. Amidst Dillinger's bank robbing spree, he started up a relationship with Evelyn Billy Frechette. On January 15, 1934, Officer Patrick O'Malley was shot and killed by John during a bank robbery on the east side of Chicago. Dillinger also felt bad for the death of this man, but was quoted saying, "He stood right in my way and kept throwing slugs at me. What else could I do?" Only 10 days later, Dillinger, Pierpont, Makeley, and Clark were arrested in Tucson. Dillinger was separated from his friends and was flown to Indiana for the murder of Patrick O'Malley. While at this trial, the famous photo of Dillinger with his arm around prosecutor Robert S. Stills was taken. Dillinger was put in the top security Crown Point prison in Indiana, where he allegedly threatened guards with a wooden gun blackened by shoe polish. The guards fell for the trick, and Dillinger was able to escape by stealing a sheriff's car and racing back to Chicago. This crime was bad news for Dillinger because driving a stolen police car across state lines is a federal offense, which allowed John to be pursued by the FBI. Dillinger and his gang continued their spree, terrorizing banks in the Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Mason City, and Iowa. Dillinger was wounded during an Iowa robbery when he got shot in the shoulder. He decided to lay low with his girlfriend at her apartment in St. Paul. The owner of the apartment was suspicious, however, and tipped the FBI. The FBI made a visit to the apartment, and Miss Frechette opened the door and claimed that Dillinger was not there. In the meantime, Dillinger loaded up and eventually cleared the way for Frechette and himself to escape by peppering the agents with machine gun fire. Frechette and Dillinger decided to flee back to Mooresville, Dillinger's hometown, because they thought the FBI would not be looking for them there. Dillinger had a good family visit in his hometown, but suspicion made him move back to Chicago. It was here where Frechette was arrested and taken into custody. This caused Dillinger a lot of stress, and he decided to change his physical appearance by getting plastic surgery. In June 1934, John Dillinger was officially named as America's first public enemy #1 by the FBI. There was a $10,000 reward for his capture. Right around this time, a new member by the name of George Nelson, aka Babyface Nelson, joined the Dillinger gang. The gang continued running around and robbing banks across the Midwest, and while staying at the Little Bohemia Lodge in Wisconsin, a shootout occurred. Again, the FBI was given information on the whereabouts of the gang by the lodge owners. As the FBI agents approached the lodge, Dillinger's posse was warned of their approach by barking dogs. And soon after, the two groups exchanged gunfire. The brief combat led to the death of 3 innocent bystanders, as well as 2 others being seriously injured. FBI agent W. Carter Baum was also killed by Babyface Nelson. This was a huge mistake for the FBI because all of Dillinger's mob escaped. John Dillinger himself escaped out the back door and ran down the beach of Star Lake. On July 4th, 1934, Dillinger moved into the apartment of ex-prostitute Anna Sage, who was facing deportation charges. Anna Sage decided she wanted to try to save her own neck by filling in the FBI on the whereabouts of Dillinger. On July 22, 1934, Dillinger invited Anna Sage and his new girlfriend, Holly Hamilton, to see a Clark Gable movie, The Manhattan Melodrama, at the Biograph Theater in Chicago. Dillinger was not aware that Sage had contacted Melvin Purvis, an FBI agent, of the plan. Sage agreed to wear an orange skirt and a white blouse so she would be easily identified. As the movie ended and the 3 exited the building, Purvis yelled, "Stick 'em up, Johnny." Dillinger bolted, struggling to pull his gun. He turned down an alley where he was shot 6 times in the back. His final words were said to have been, "You got me."